Hello, scholars. I hope that everyone is safe during this storm that we have. I haven't really witnessed much what I would consider dangerous weather. There hasn't been much rain that I've noticed and not many winds, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So, what we're going to try to do today is review chapters 5 and 7. Not going to take up much time, just going to go through these chapters, and then if you have any questions or comments or concerns, as always, feel free to reach out. I'm going to share my screen. And I hope that everyone can see. This week we are covering selecting topics and a purpose. So oftentimes individuals, when they are seeking to determine an appropriate topic for their presentation, one that will not only be appropriate for their audience and give them the opportunity to do well as a presenter, but also a topic that's going to be interesting to them so that they are engaging and so that they feel the need or the desire even to put forth great effort in developing supporting information to include in their presentation. So one of the suggestions of the book is to brainstorm. Basically, as many random ideas you can think of that you're interested in that you think might be appropriate for discussion, you can write those down and then go through the process of elimination to determine what is going to be most ideal for your audience and or the occasion. So a secondary option for determining a topic is to do what's known as clustering. And clustering is to select a number of various categories, such as people, places, things, ideas, concepts, processes, to select all of these categories and then come up with as many potential topics under those categories as possible. Once you've done that, then you should be able to go through the process of elimination to determine which of these topics would be most ideal for your audience, as well as which one of these topics might you be most interested in and or most knowledgeable of. Oftentimes, we are either electing a topic that we already have a great wealth of understanding about, or we're picking something that we're just really interested in and we don't mind doing research on. So there is a short video that I want to play for you.
What do Google, Disney, and Frito-Lay have in common? They're all using the cutting-edge techniques of neuromarketing to help sell their products. Neuromarketing is a new field of market research. An article in the New York Times explains that it uses techniques from neuroscience to analyze people's responses to products and promotions. By hooking you up to brainwave sensors, eye-tracking devices, and other high-tech equipment, neuromarketers hope to measure your subconscious interest in various products. They then use that information to create more persuasive advertising campaigns, what one neuromarketer calls the whispers of the brain.
Now, this particular topic, it might just be interesting to me because it's based on marketing, but many people will say that it's interesting because it's something that you don't hear of very often. The average individual probably won't imagine that there are people who have various marketing strategies that involve almost deceptive techniques to gaining understanding about what customers really want and what types of things can be used as triggers for them to purchase products or to invest in various services. So there are, as you will see on the document that I'm going to attach, is going to be an outline template. There are a few things that you should include on your outline prior to actually discussing your introduction, body, and conclusion. One of these is the general purpose of your presentation. This is the broad or overarching goal of your speech. There are only 3 options for a general purpose. One of these options is to inform. When we elect to inform our audiences, basically we're just teaching them, sharing information that we consider to be beneficial. When we elect to persuade, which is the second option, we are trying to change or reinforce their attitudes, beliefs, and or behaviors. The third option is to entertain. And I think it's worth saying that sometimes when we elect to entertain our audience, we may also have an informative or persuasive aspect to our presentation. So some of our presentations may include various general purposes, but more than likely there will be one overarching goal, either to inform, persuade, or entertain. Now, our specific purpose is a phrase that outlines our unique purpose for our presentation, not just to inform, but to inform about what? Not just to persuade, but to persuade to do or think what. This is basically what the speaker wants their audience to know or to be able to do after their presentation. Some might even word their specific purpose by saying, at the end of my presentation, my audience will be familiar with blank. Or at the end of my presentation, my audience will be persuaded to blank. So the guidelines for a specific purpose is that you have a full infinitive phrase, a sentence basically, that you have a statement, not a question, that you avoid figurative language, that you limit to one distinct idea, and that you avoid being vague. Here's examples. You wouldn't want to just say one word or combine two words if you're saying this is your specific purpose. I wouldn't say my speech is about avalanches. That's too vague. That's not enough to give me a good idea of what we're going to be learning about. A better option would be to say, to inform my audience about the three major kinds of avalanches. Please don't ask a question. You should not say, what is Dia de los Muertos? A better way of putting your specific purpose together would be to say that I am going to inform my audience about the history of Mexico's Dia de los Muertos celebration. Avoid figurative language. If you look at the first option that says to persuade my audience that the campus policy on student parking really stinks, the figurative language is the word stinks, because that is not interpreted by all individuals the same. So a better way of saying that would be to persuade my audience that the campus policy on student parking should be revised to provide more spaces for students before 5 p.m. This is very specific. There is no subjective information, which is what stinks really is. You want to be as clear, concise, and objective as possible when putting these statements together. One distinct idea. One thing that would be ineffective would be to suggest that your specific purpose is to persuade your audience to become literary tutors and to donate time to Meals on Wheels. Those are two completely different goals. They are not necessarily even directed toward an audience that might be interested in both of those at the same time. You might think that someone who's a student would definitely be interested in becoming a literacy tutor and having interest in civic engagement. But who's to say that those who are consider themselves scholars and are focused on academia would even be interested in civic engagement? And it might just be a little too much for you to try to persuade them to do two entirely different things in one presentation. A better thing to do might be to break these up into two entirely different specific purpose statements for two entirely different presentations. Try not to be vague. As this statement mentions gerrymandering, You want to make sure that anyone who's not familiar with politics or who's not familiar with their particular language would understand exactly what you're referring to. So rather than saying, to persuade my audience that something should be done about gerrymandering, you would say, to persuade my audience that each state should create a nonpartisan commission to establish criteria for congressional redistricting. So after you've done your specific purpose statement, it is important that you answer these questions to make sure that you're on the right track. Does my specific purpose statement meet my assignment requirements? If we have an informative presentation assignment, you don't want a specific purpose statement that's more persuasive in nature. Also, can I discuss this effectively in the time allotted? Generally, our speeches for class will range from 3 to 5 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. Our longest speech is going to be 8 to 10 minutes, but that's going to be a group presentation. You want to ensure that when you are developing these ideas for your presentations, that you have time to garner great understanding of your topic. Also, make sure that your topic is relevant to your audience. I wouldn't do a presentation on being prepared for ACT to an audience of college students because evidently you've already done the ACT and you're already prepared to be a college student, or you're not even interested in taking that route. Also, I would like to mention that you don't want to have a topic that's too technical for your audiences. If you have to define every term because you're using an extensive amount of jargon, you'll lose your audience. Remember, your goal of communication is to generate meaning, to create understanding for your audience. If they can't understand without going to the encyclopedia or the dictionary, then you're not being a very effective communicator. The last thing that I want to cover is central ideas. And basically think of a central idea as somewhat of a thesis statement for those of you who have done essays in high school and in other classes. Your central idea is basically a statement that includes all of your main points for your presentation. Here's an example of an introduction that includes a thesis statement / central idea.
Imagine an 8-year-old boy who never speaks or smiles, or a cognitively disabled man who has few friends but no one to talk to, or an elderly woman in poor health who does nothing but complain about her ailments. These are just a few people that I have seen helped by music therapy. All of them were able to come out of themselves, forget their problems, and interact with other people, if only for a few minutes, because of music. For the past 4 years, I've been part of a jazz ensemble that performs in mental hospitals, nursing homes, and residences for disabled adults. Although I'm not a mental health professional, my volunteer work has shown me that music therapy does improve patients' lives. I'd like to share some of my experiences with you today and describe some common methods used for music therapy. Finally, I'll briefly explain some theories about why music therapy is so effective.
As recognized in this video, you can see that this young man has outlined the 3 things that he will discuss in his presentation. I'm going to add an assignment to this week's module that will allow you an opportunity to practice doing specific purposes or outlining a specific purpose, as well as developing a central idea. If you have questions, comments, or concerns, as always, feel free to reach out.